She stumbles into the wrong room on a cruise at 3 a.m., awakens to a bone-chilling surprise. The clock struck 3 in the morning, eerily echoing through the darkened hallways of the luxury cruise ship. Waves crashed violently against the hull, their rhythm loud and chaotic, as Emily stumbled through the dimly lit corridor, rubbing her tired eyes. All she wanted was to find her cabin, but with the place looking like a twisted labyrinth, she felt utterly lost. The atmosphere was thick with an unsettling mix of exhaustion and mystery, the kind that made your throat tighten and your heart raced. As she wandered down the seemingly endless rows of doors, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Each cabin seemed to harbor secrets, shadows lurking behind harsh white doors. The muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses faded, leaving an eerie silence that wrapped around her like a cold blanket. She shivered, the chill creeping into her bones, sending a wave of unease sliding down her spine. A sudden breeze spilled from an open door nearby, whispering her name in a way that made her stop in her tracks. That door was ajar. Curiosity piqued, her heart pounding in her chest. She peeked into the room, half expecting to see the vibrant energy of a party. Instead, she was met with a chilling sight. A dimly lit cabin, curtains drawn tight, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. A single lamp cast long, twisting shadows across the floor. At the far end of the room, a silhouette loomed, its figure unnatural and static, sending a shudder cascading through her. What is that? She thought, her breath hitching in her throat. Then, several eyes flickered in her direction, reflecting the dim light in a glint that felt almost predatory. Panic surged through Emily as she clutched her chest, trying to steady her racing heart. Who were these people? Why were they all staring? Before she could fully comprehend the weight of the situation, a tingling sensation danced down her spine. The silence broke, an unsettling, guttural whisper echoed through the room, sending her instincts into overdrive. She had to escape, and fast. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Pushing the door wider, Emily froze as the dark figure took a step forward. What lay beyond that door was beyond comprehension. The hum of electricity crackled in the air, thickening the tension. Instinct screamed for her to run, to bolt back to the safety of the corridor, but she was trapped, frozen in horror, heart racing and breaths quickening. There was no going back now. What did they want? And why did the shadows seem to be pulling her closer? Returning to this nightmare wasn't an option, but escaping it might cost her more than she'd ever imagined. The figure stepped closer, revealing a gaunt face shadowed by the dim light. What seemed like a smile twisted across its lips, but there was nothing warm about it. Emily felt her skin prickle, her body rigid with fear, as if she were a deer caught in headlights. All those eyes, hungry, glimmering, were focused solely on her. It was like stepping into a nightmare, one she couldn't wake from. Who are you? She managed to whisper, her voice barely a breath. It felt like such a pointless question. Their intentions hung heavy in the air, wrapping around her like a vice. Join us, the figure murmured, its voice smooth yet chilling, almost hypnotizing. The others shifted, their faces emerging from the darkness, each look more unsettling than the last. There were no ordinary people here. They appeared worn and diminished, as if they existed in some realm beyond reality. Emily's instincts screamed at her to retreat, to run for her life. But she stood paralyzed, caught in their penetrating gaze. What do you want? Her heart thundered, a frantic reminder of her fragility. Asleep or awake, choices are but illusions. Another voice chimed in, a raspy whisper that sent chills racing down her spine. It felt like they were toying with her, playing a game of cat and mouse in the dark. Emily clenched her fists, summoning courage she didn't know she had. She had to move, to break free from this cruel spell. No, I'm not going to stay, she exclaimed, gathering every ounce of strength to turn and bolt back through the door. The corridor loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. She could hear their whispers morphing into mocking laughter, echoing behind her like ghostly taunts. She ran, heart pounding as she dashed through the narrow hall, the walls closing in around her, shadows stretching and flickering like restless spirits. Every footfall echoed in the silence, heightening an already suffocating tension. A shiver writhed through her as she realized the laughter was not just in her head, it followed her. The weight of unseen eyes made her skin crawl. Just ahead, she could barely make out her cabin door at the end of the corridor. A flicker of hope ignited within her, urging her feet to go faster. But as she neared, something shifted. The door that should have opened to sanctuary stood strangely ajar, as if waiting for something sinister. Panic gripped her once more. Was it a trap? Would those figures be waiting inside? She swiveled around, frantically seeking an escape, but the corridor was empty, silent save for the soft lapping of waves against the ship. A knot twisted in her stomach. Should she risk it? Or go back toward the darkness behind her? The decision felt unbearable. With trembling hands, Emily forced herself to push the door wider, stepping into her cabin. But the moment her foot crossed the threshold, a chilling presence enveloped her. "Welcome back," a familiar, haunting voice echoed, sending a wave of dread crashing through her. The lights flickered, and she realized she was not alone. The room was filled with shadows, and sooner or later, she knew, they would all demand something from her. What did they want from her? The question hung heavy in the air as a growing darkness crept closer, and Emily felt her breath hitch, once again trapped between the nightmare she had fled and the familiar she could no longer trust. She had choices to make, but at what cost? Time was ticking, and there was no going back now. What awaited her next? Darkness swallowed Emily whole as she stepped into the room, and the shadows loomed closer, swirling like a storm. Her heart thudded, the sound echoing in her ears like a drum. She was surrounded, trapped in a web spun from fear and malevolence. Panic clawed at her throat, yet she forced herself to breathe through the sheer weight of dread. "Did you miss us?" The voice cooed, invading her thoughts. It slithered through her mind, echoing with mockery, drowning her in an unnerving familiarity. She could barely remember where she had heard it before. The realization came with a jolt. It was her own voice, distorted, corrupted by the corrupt souls that filled the room. "Stay with us, Emily." Another shadow stepped forward, a thin figure with deep-set eyes. Hope drained from her veins. It was the figure from the corridor, the smile still twisted, its intent unmistakable. "You belong to us now." "No." She stumbled backward, hands raised defensively, uncertainty draping over her like a suffocating blanket. "You don't own me." But they didn't seem perturbed by her defiance. They exchanged fleeting glances, their eyes glittering in the dim light, relishing her desperation. "You seek freedom yet crave comfort, don't you?" The raspy voice sang, almost soothingly. "We can show you the way." Emily's instincts screamed at her to fight back, to scream, to run. Yet a part of her felt drawn to their inviting voices, a sickening curiosity that made her shiver. What could they offer her? A sense of belonging? Or were they right? Was freedom but a quicksand that would swallow her whole? She whipped around, searching for another way out. But the door she had entered through now loomed like a mockery, sealed by unseen forces. She was alone, completely alone. The shadows danced as the figures closed in, each step deliberate, echoing through her mind. "What is the price of your freedom, Emily?" The voice was soft, insidious, wrapping around her thoughts like vines on an abandoned house. It felt like a riddle she should understand, but her mind was a whirlwind of confusion. "I want to pay," she whispered, trembling, though inside she wondered what they truly sought. A deal? A pact? Something far worse? What if the cost is simply a choice? One of them stepped into the light, revealing a gaunt face twisted with hunger and anticipation. "What would you sacrifice to escape this place? Your memories? Your humanity?" Her chest tightened at the notion. Memories were all she had. Yet pieces of her felt scattered, untethered, and each heartbeat ricocheted off the chilling walls like a ghostly reminder of her past. "Choose wisely," the chorus murmured in unison like a dark lullaby. "Join us, or be consumed by your own doubts." Suddenly, the shadows flickered, revealing glimpses of the doppelgangers around her. Each one bore a part of her history, fragments of regrets, lost hopes, and desires. Emily's breath quickened. The thought of confronting those memories left her reeling, but running wouldn't save her. What if she was already lost? Adrenaline surged, igniting something fierce within her. No, she shouted, voice a battle cry. I won't bow to fear. But as she spoke, the shadows surged forward, the air thickening with a suffocating energy. The temperature dropped, wrapping around her like ice. Their whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts, drowning out her resolve that in that moment. She was torn between the shadowy figures and the remnants of her scattered past, one side promising an escape and the other a confrontation. She felt suspended in time, her senses dulled, yet alive with dread and determination. Just as she was about to fight, a loud crash came from outside, startling the figures momentarily. The tremor of the ship rocked the cabin, throwing them off their balance. Was this her chance? But then she remembered they were never truly alone. The shadows flickered again, and behind them a door creaked open, leading to an abyss filled with unfamiliar whispers. What lay beyond that threshold? Was it another level of darkness or a flicker of light? Emily's decision loomed larger than life, and as she braced herself for the next round, the choice was clearer than ever. At what cost? Emily's heart raced, thumping like a wild drum in her chest. The shadows wavered, stepping back just enough to allow her a fleeting glimpse of the door that had opened behind them. The abyss beyond beckoned her like a dark whisper, promising secrets she couldn't yet comprehend. But her gut twisted with trepidation. Don't be foolish, Emily, one of the figures hissed. Their voice, once a cruel song, now dripped with venomous irritation. The door is not what it seems. It leads to despair, a deeper pit of despair. You don't want to enter, shut up, she shouted, the suddenness of her outburst surprising even her. You don't control me. With eyes narrowed, she took a step toward the door. The shadows recoiled, their faces twisted into expressions of rage mixed with something that looked like fear. They weren't invincible. Perhaps she did hold some power after all. The air crackled, and as she moved closer to that sinister portal, she could hear faint voices, whispers that sliced through the darkness like a knife. Emily, Emily, they beckoned. It felt eerily intimate, yet soaked in longing. They weren't just random whispers. They sounded familiar. Listen to us, another shadow urged, voice curling around her like smoke. No one will save you but us. We know everything about you. Her breath faltered. Everything. Memories she had buried. Choices she had regretted. The shadows dangled her past before her like a ripe fruit, ready to be plucked. What do you know? She challenged, her voice dripping with stubbornness. You seek escape, yet fear the truth of who you are, the gaunt shadow replied, its eyes alight with a manic understanding. You're scared of yourself. Join us. Forget your pain and embrace the darkness within. Pain. She felt its return, a heavy weight dragging her back to those familiar low moments. Was it true? Hadn't she spent her life running from the very shadows they represented? Frantically, she spun toward the abyss. There was something beyond a shimmer, but was it freedom or further entrapment? I could find peace, or lose my mind, she mumbled, staring into the swirling chaos. Peace is an illusion, the chorus muttered in agreement. Join us. You will never feel alone. In that moment, Emily remembered the faces of those she'd lost, the laughter and warmth they brought into her life. I can't let you take me, she cried out, clutching her head as memories bombarded her. Each emotion came crashing in waves, mixing confusion with a dreadful clarity. She felt herself splintering under the weight of it all. Suddenly, the walls around her pulsated, shadows lurched forward, and her dull flicker of hope threatened to be extinguished. Panic surged as she fought against their encroaching darkness. Get away from me. With a newfound strength, she dashed toward the door, ignoring their enraged screams. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around her ankle like a vine as she stumbled. This was it, she either stepped into her past or faced the unknown. With one final push, she hurled herself through the threshold. A cold wind howled, pressing against her like an unfriendly hand, and then darkness enveloped her. The sound faded, and for a moment, there was nothing. Silence. But then, dim lights flickered into existence, illuminating a vast hall lined with mirrors. Emily gasped as she caught a glimpse of herself in one. Her reflection looked entirely different. Welcome back, Emily, a voice echoingly sweet, yet dripping with insincerity, rang through the hall. "You've finally come home." Heart pounding and breath quickening, the realization crashed over her. This was not an escape. It was the beginning of her confrontation. She could no longer run from what she had become. She stood frozen, gazing into the many faces in the mirrors, each one a different version of herself. Emily knew the choice was no longer hers alone. What awaited her in this hall of reflections, each promise laced with a poison of truth? And what would she be willing to confront to reclaim her life? Emily stared into the mirrors, her breath hitching in her throat. Each reflection revealed a piece of herself she barely recognized: haunted eyes, brittle smiles, and an aura that felt both familiar and terrifying. What had she become? "Who are you?" she whispered, not sure if she was asking the reflections or the voice that had welcomed her back. "Who do you want to be?" The voice replied, smooth as silk yet sharp as glass. It came from everywhere and nowhere, echoing off the walls of uncertainty. A trembling flush of fear ignited in her chest. The shadows might have followed her. What if they were waiting, lurking just outside this hall? The thought made her skin prickle. She turned to run, but the mirrors shifted, stretching like a funhouse maze, closing off any potential escape. "Run if you must," they taunted, shadows creeping from vacant corners. "But you cannot hide from yourself. Not here." Panic surged, flooding her veins. She stumbled backward, her mind racing. Could she truly confront the terrifying reality of her choices? The shadows' words looped in her head, each syllable heavy with dread. What would it ask of her? What truths lied waiting in the reflections, truths she had abandoned? "Look closer," the voice urged again, softer this time, tempting her. The mirrors shimmered as though alive, swirling images pulling at her resolve. Doubts and disappointments danced in the glass, flashing scenes of her past like a movie reel and drowning her in regret. "Why did you give up?" A reflection inched forward, whispering. "Why did you walk away?" Her fists balled at her sides, emotions warring within her. Would she have to relive those mistakes, everything she wished she could erase? A guttural sob escaped her lips, a sound she hardly recognized. "Please, I can't face that again." The mirrors darkened, and a chorus of echoes laughed. "You must. Only then can you step forward." Bracing herself, Emily stepped closer, eyes locked onto one particular reflection. The face looking back at her was filled with tears, eyes shimmering with unshed regrets. But it was also fierce. There was strength in vulnerability, she realized. "You are not alone." Another reflection suddenly leaned into view, another version of herself, but older and wiser, a survivor living beyond the pain. "We are here together." Hope began to flicker, fragile like a candle flame against the wind. Just then, the air around her thickened, and the shadows lunged forward, dark tendrils stretching toward her, consuming the light that had begun to break through. "Don't listen to them," they shrieked in a cacophony of voices. "You'll be devoured." "Enough," Emily shouted, her voice louder than the chaos swirling around her. "You don't define me anymore." The shadows screeched, retreating momentarily, and the mirrors rippled, their surfaces quaking with disbelief. "You dare defy us?" "Yes," she roared, feeling the power surging within her. This was the part of herself she had long forgotten, the strength buried beneath layers of shame. With that realization came action. Reaching out, she placed a hand against the glass, her reflection mirroring her resolve. "I choose to remember, learn, and grow. You will not hold me captive." A blinding light erupted from her touch, forcing the shadows back, their cries drowned out by the brilliance surrounding her. In that electric moment, everything shattered: the mirrors, the echoes, the darkness. Emily fell to her knees as the sharp pain of emerging reality flooded through her. She gasped for air, disoriented and raw, but exhilarated. And as she slowly rose, she faced what was now an empty space where the hall had stood. Was that it? She wondered aloud, trembling with new hope. Did I overcome? But even as she spoke, something stirs in the silence behind her, a familiar whisper beckoning. Once more, are you truly free, Emily? Or just beginning to unravel? The pulse of mystery throbbed in her chest. What awaited her still lingered in the shadows beyond, begging for attention. Could she rise to face it and finally break the cycle? Emily turned at the sound, the whisper weaving around her like a chilling breeze. The space around her pulsated with a life of its own, the air thick with tension and unease. The remnants of the shattered mirrors scattered across the floor like jagged memories, each shard glinting ominously in the dim light in that space. A shadow loomed, creeping toward her from the darkness. She inhaled sharply, her instincts screaming at her to flee. But where would she go? The emptiness taunted her, reminding her that her past was an echo she couldn't escape, and the uncertainties of her future lurked nearby. Face it, Emily, the voice coiled around her like a serpent. You can run, but you cannot hide. The truth waits for you. Her heart thundered in her chest. The very air vibrated with unseen forces. She took a step back, her eyes straining against the darkness that drew closer, feeling the cool tendrils brush her skin. Just when she thought she might snap, a sudden weight in her pocket jolted her. Trembling, she fished out a small object, a locket she thought she'd lost long ago. With shaking hands, she opened it, revealing a faded photograph of her younger self, grinning in a moment of carefree joy. A tear slipped down her cheek, a stark contrast to the shadows surrounding her, a symbol of hope amidst despair. Do you remember this? The voice taunted, now echoing in malevolent delight. The girl who believed dreams could come true? What happened to her? I'm still here, Emily shouted, forcing conviction into her voice. You don't get to take the memories that made me who I am. The shadows hesitated, recoiling slightly as if her words had some kind of power over them. But their laughter quickly returned, louder now, mocking her resolve. You think you can conquer your own shadows? You're merely a flickering flame in the dark. With a guttural scream of defiance, Emily clutched the locket tightly, focusing all her energy on the one clear thought she had. She would no longer be afraid. In that moment, she closed her eyes and envisioned herself surrounded by light, by passion, dreams, and all that she had lost and hoped to find again. When she opened her eyes, the darkness began to waver. The shadows morphed, shrinking back as if burnt by her fierce light. An eerie silence took hold, thick and pregnant with promise. Emily felt the ground beneath her shift, like a tide pulling her into a new realm. The echoes of laughter faded into whispers, the taunting voices dissolving into a gentle hum of understanding. She breathed deeply, soaking in this unexpected calm. Is this? She hesitated, glancing around as the shadows melted further into the background. The beginning, the whisper coiled through the space, now a soothing lull rather than a threat. You have yet to uncover the truth behind this journey. Her pulse quickened, urgency igniting within her once more. What was this truth? Why had it come to find her now? She wasn't entirely convinced that she was free, yet she sensed she had crossed a threshold. The fear and regret were still fragments of her, but she could feel the stirrings of something else, a hint of promise that whispered for her to follow. Determined, she took a step forward into the light that remained, her heart pounding not with fear, but with the thrill of newfound strength. But just as she felt the warmth cradle her, a chill swept back through the air. Don't think this is the end, Emily. You'll face the ultimate test soon. A sinkhole of dread opened within her. What does that mean? The shadows, momentarily subdued, flared up once more, their presence ominously wrapping around her. If you think confronting your past is the hardest part, just wait, the hardest choice is still ahead. Emily's breath quickened as she realized the weight of her journey wasn't over. What awaited her loomed larger than she'd ever imagined, and with each step deeper into the unknown, she felt the echoes of her choices clawing their way back to her, forcing her to confront them once more. Could she find the strength to face what was coming? With her heart racing, she pressed forward into the uncertainty, determined to break the cycle, even as shadows flickered cruelly at her heels. What was the ultimate test that awaited her? Emily felt cold perspiration gather along her brow as she ventured deeper into the unknown. The walls around her seemed to close in, pulsating with dark intent. Here, light fought to exist against the looming shadows, each step forward a battle, each breath a reminder of the price she'd have to pay. What choice? She whispered, gripping the locket so tightly her knuckles turned white. What could be worse than this? The shadows seemed to hiss in response, thundering laughter echoing in the corners of her mind, a grotesque symphony heralding her impending doom. Her heart raced, but she pressed on, drawn by an urgency she couldn't quite understand. She could feel the air thickening, a storm gathering just beyond her vision, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced through the haze. A door stood ajar in the far corner, dim and inviting. She hesitated, uncertainty clawing at her. This door felt different. It buzzed with an energy that beckoned her forward, almost like a moth to a flame. "Don't you dare," a voice growled, startling her. "You don't know what's behind that door." Ignoring the warning, she moved closer. The whispers of the shadows grew frantic, a cacophony of warning screams drowning out the calm hum that had briefly enveloped her. Inside, she could feel something large and electric swirling, threatening to unleash a force she could barely comprehend. She pushed the door open and was enveloped in a blinding brilliance. The room beyond was vast, surreal, a swirling vortex of colors, blues and greens, vibrant and alive, yet chilling in their intensity. Her breath caught as she stepped inside, crossing the threshold as if stepping into another world altogether. "Welcome, Emily," a voice echoed, silk and velvet draping over her like a protective shroud. The stunning yet ominous figure materialized from the colors, a being composed of light and shadow, shifting with every breath. Its eyes locked onto hers, piercing deep into her soul as if attempting to unravel the very essence of who she was. "Who are you?" Emily stumbled over the words, pulsating with anxiety. "I am a remnant of your truth, a facet of what you fear to confront." "You've stepped into the first trial," it replied, the air thickening with each syllable. "This is where you must decide who you are willing to become. The ultimate test looms ahead." Her legs felt weak as the enormity of its words sank in. A choice? What kind of choice? Was it about her past, or her present, her fears, or her desires? She felt the shadows creeping at the door behind her, whispering of failures and regrets, echoing all the voices that had ever told her she wasn't enough. "Choose wisely, Emily," the figure warned, the shadows briefly curling back at the mention of her name. "What you accept will shape the reality you'll walk into next." A knot formed in her throat. She stepped closer, heart pounding against her ribs. "What if I choose wrong?" The figure smiled, but it wasn't comforting. "There is no wrong choice. There is only consequence, and consequence can drive you toward light or ensnare you in endless darkness." Emily stood there, caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. Her vision blurred as memories flickered across her mind. The girl in the locket, vibrant and full of hope, and the shadows that had followed her, ready to consume her spirit. Could she truly carve a new path, free from their grasp? "Will I even recognize myself?" she murmured, panic rising. The vibrant figure shimmered back at her. "You won if you hold on to the chains of what you've lost. Let them go. It's time to choose." The room trembled with tension, and Emily felt her heart race faster. This was it. The moment of truth waited before her, stark and undeniable. She had to confront her fears, her losses, and ultimately, herself. But how could she trust what lay ahead? And just as she felt herself begin to sink into the swirling colors, a sharp roar echoed through the space, forcing her back. The walls bowed inward, and with violent fury, a storm erupted, challenging her once again. Could the strength she found carry her through? There was no time to think, only time to act. Would she take the leap, or would the darkness pull her back? "What is your answer?" the voice thundered, demanding that the room succumb to chaos. Emily took a deep breath, her left hand clutching the locket. "I choose." But before she could finish, the room erupted into deafening silence, the energy swirling violently, leaving her teetering on the brink as she prepared to confront the ultimate truth. Was this the moment she'd been waiting for, or was it just the beginning of something far worse? The silence hung heavy, pressing against her. Emily stood on the edge, caught between light and dark, choice and consequence. The flickering of colors around her dimmed, replaced by an all-consuming shadow that slithered like a living thing. Her heart pounded, each beat a reminder of the urgency coursing through her veins. "See, come on," she stammered, her voice shaky, barely above a whisper. "What do I choose?" The air crackled with energy, the vibrant figure watching her intently, its eyes reflecting her desperation. "Your choice will unlock what lies ahead, but it will also reveal what you fear most. Are you ready to embrace that?" Emily's hands trembled as she clutched the locket tighter, feeling the weight of her past pressing down on her shoulders. What if I'm not strong enough? What if this is all just a trap? The figure's smile faded, replaced with an expression that could only be described as pity intermingled with concern. Life's choices are seldom simple. They weave a complex tapestry. But know this, the darkness thrives on fear, and your hesitation feeds it. A flash of defiance surged through her. I want to let it win, she shouted, trying to drown out the swirling doubts that clawed at her mind. Taking a step forward, she inhaled deeply. I choose to let go. I refuse to be beholden to my past. With those words, the room exploded with light. The shadows unleashed a howl, a guttural mix of rage and despair. The walls warped and twisted, colors melding into chaotic patterns that danced before her eyes. The figure's form shimmered, radiating warmth that enveloped her like a comforting embrace. We shall see, it breathed, voice echoing with a strange resonance. You have chosen the difficult path, Emily, but it is also the most freeing. Remember, it is not just about choosing light or dark, but what you will forge in the space between. Suddenly, the whirl of colors surged, dragging her into the midst of a chaotic storm. She felt weightless, suspended in an eternal moment where time and reality blurred. Screams echoed in the void, distorted whispers rising as the shadows clashed violently around her. A surge of panic gripped her. What is happening? Emily screamed, as the energy spun her like a storm-tossed leaf. She shut her eyes, focusing hard on the locket in her grip, seeking the comforting warmth of its memory. Your truth, the figure's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and clear. Your truth is a weapon. Wield it wisely. As she opened her eyes, the storm quieted momentarily. Formless shapes whispered at the edges of her vision. She clutched the locket tighter, drawing deep from within. What truth? She wasn't even sure she knew what that was anymore. Then it hit her, a bright flash, a memory of laughter and light. The girl in the locket smirked, echoing her childhood bravery, the innocence that had slipped away over the years. Accept the darkness, and you accept your whole self, Emily shouted, voice rising above the tumult. No more running. The shadows recoiled, a moment of hesitation passing. It was all the opening she needed. Drawing from the core of her heart, she yelled, I choose me. In an instant, the storm reversed. Swirling colors twisted and shot out in a blinding spiral that erupted into a brilliant explosion of light. With a deafening bang, the chaos shattered and vanished, leaving Emily breathless and standing alone in a barren void. The figure was gone, leaving nothing but a whisper of its presence behind. She felt lighter yet vulnerable, exposed in this new realm as the leftover remnants of her choice echoed in the silence. Then, through the emptiness, a door materialized. It stood there, inviting and ominous, whispered promises spilling from its cracks. What now? She questioned, dread creeping back as she approached its threshold. Not only was there a new world to explore, but another choice awaited. Would she step through, or would curiosity lead her down a darker path? The tension tightened once more as the door creaked open, revealing its secrets. Emily hesitated at the door, its edges glowing softly, as if breathing with life. A pull deep within her stirred again, urging her to step forward. She clenched the locket one last time, feeling the cool metal bite against her palm, grounding her. But it wasn't just fear that held her back. It was an insatiable craving to know, to understand why she had been brought here. As the door creaked open wider, a freezing wind whispered out, wrapping around her, prickling the hairs on her arms and sending shivers down her spine. She inhaled sharply, the air thick with a scent she couldn't quite place, sweet yet decayed, like old flowers gone to rot. It was oddly intoxicating. Are you going to stand there forever? A voice slid from the shadows, playful, yet laced with an edge that set her teeth on edge. Emily whipped around to find a figure emerging from the dimness behind her. Tall and cloaked in the very shadows that had haunted her moments before, its face was obscured, but the glint of eyes pierced through the darkness. What are you hoping to find? The voice purred, smooth yet unnerving. She stepped back, feeling the door brush against her back. Who are you? Just a traveler. Like you, it said with a grin that sent ice through her veins. But don't worry, I bring no harm. Only knowledge. Images raced through her mind. She thought of the swirling chaos, the figure that had urged her to choose. Could this creature be another test? Knowledge? About what? She demanded, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. The pull of the doorway beckoned, but the figure's presence kept her rooted, instincts screaming at her to leave. About yourself, of course, it replied, slowly stepping closer until the shadows released their grip and illuminated the pale, angular features. You want to break the chains of your past, to step beyond your own limits. The figure paused, eyes narrowing. But you want tea, will you? Not really. Deep down, you're terrified of what you might uncover. The truth of those words landed like a punch. It stung, igniting something raw within her. I'm not afraid, she snapped, though the quiver in her voice betrayed her. I've already chosen to embrace the darkness. A laugh reverberated in the empty space, sending chills dancing up her spine. Embrace it? Or merely invite it closer? And suddenly her past flooded her thoughts. The mistakes, the missteps, dark moments she'd thought she could escape. Was this figure a trick of the shadows, designed to draw her in deeper? Step through, it urged, gesturing towards the doorway. See where your choice takes you. Or I can show you a different path, where comfort awaits if you prefer the familiar over risk. Emily's mind raced. What was on the other side? A familiar facade of safety, or the raw honesty of the unknown? What do you want from me? Only to reveal the truth, it said, voice dripping with mock sincerity. You've already taken the first step by confronting your past. Why not seize the next? Her heart raced. She cast a quick glance at the door, feeling its magnetic draw. Could she truly plunge into whatever lay ahead? Did she have it in her to face another truth? Then the figure leaned in closer, whispering like silk against her ear, your greatest fears lie beyond that threshold. But they also hold the key to your freedom. She bit her lip, wrestling with the choice. Could it be freedom, or merely a trap? As she cracked the door open wider, shadowy tendrils snaked around the edges, tugging at her. Just then, a brutal sound erupted from the depths, the crash of something unseen, followed by a low growl that sent her heart into a frantic race. What if her fears were too great? What if she couldn't handle what lay beyond? Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the void, reflecting chaos and sparking doubt. Emily took a deep breath. In or out? She whispered to herself, feeling the weight of her decision. The door swung wider still, the grotesque allure of the unknown looming larger. It beckoned her in, and suddenly, with a final resolute push, a voice rang fiercely in her mind, a command. Primal and raw, go. Unlock whatever waits. Her pulse thudded in her ears as she stepped over the threshold, and the world fractured around her. What awaited her on the other side? Was it a new beginning, or the shadows she thought she left behind? The air tensed as reality twisted and darkened, the echoes of her choice lingering. Emily staggered as the world fractured and reshaped itself, swirling into a tapestry of colors and sensations. She felt as if she'd been pulled through a tunnel, a vice of shadows squeezing around her until she landed on the other side with a thud. As she rose, the chaos coiled away, revealing a serene landscape, a sun-soaked field bursting with wildflowers, their vibrant hues painting the earth in warmth. The air was sweet and fresh, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness she had just escaped. Emily blinked, disbelief flooding her as she staggered forward, seeking the truth hidden between the warm embrace of sunlight and the encroaching shadows behind her. Is this freedom? She whispered, uncertainty twisting her stomach. But the field felt alive, the flowers swaying gently, urging her to step deeper into the light. For a moment, the world felt safe. Suddenly, a sinister laugh echoed in the distance, pulling her heart into a tight knot. The figures from before, the shadows that had haunted her, lingered at the edge of the field, their distorted faces smiling cruelly. You think you've escaped, dear Emily? A familiar voice called out, mirthful yet laced with malice. This is just a facade. You can't run from yourself. Emily's breath hitched. Fear clawed at her mind, but she refused to let it take root. She recalled the figure of light and its words, your truth is a weapon. Clenching the locket, she felt the warmth radiating through her palm, igniting a flicker of courage. I know who I am, she shouted, her voice slicing through the weight of uncertainty. I've faced my past. I've confronted my fears. And I won't let you take this from me. The shadows hissed, their laughter turning sardonic. Brave words, But what do you truly believe? Then, a whirlwind of memories surged within her, the girl in the photograph, the laughter, the hope, the moments of darkness when she felt lost. She felt it all coursing through her, each memory a reminder of her strength and resilience. For too long, I've let you define me, Emily said, her voice steady, unwavering. No more. I choose to embrace all parts of me, the light and the dark. The flowers responded, swaying in a palpable energy. She could feel the warmth of the sun wrapping around her like a blanket. It energized her spirit, fueling the fire in her heart. The figures recoiled as she took a step forward, determination emboldened in her steps. You are not my shadows. You are fragments of my past that I choose to learn from, not fear. Each word resonated like a drumbeat, strong and clear. Stop, they shrieked, but she could hear the tremor in their voices. They were faltering. With each step, she could sense the light growing, pushing back against the onslaught of darkness. The shadows shrieked and writhed as if caught in an unseen storm, their forms distorting, melting away like wax under heat. Emily breathed deeply, feeling liberated with each moment. She reached for the door of her memories, fully prepared to embrace them. I will not be chained by guilt. I will not be consumed by despair. I choose resilience, love, and joy. In a blinding flash, the realm thrust her forward. Fireworks burst in the air around her, celebrating her resolve. The shadows screeched one last time before vanishing into the ether like smoke caught in the wind. As silence settled, she gazed at the field, now stretched infinitely before her. It was no longer an illusion. It was a symbol of growth and acceptance, of space she could inhabit in peace. Thank you, she whispered, the locket warm against her chest, the weight of its memories bearing a different meaning now. With a smile pulling at her lips, Emily stepped away from the echoes of pain, ready to embrace the adventure that lay ahead. She was free. She had the choice to redefine herself, and as she walked into the future, she felt the sun illuminate her path, whispering promises of growth beyond the boundaries of fear. The shadows were no longer part of her narrative. They were a chapter closed, leading her to a brighter beginning. Now it's your turn to step into your own light. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire your journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us grow this amazing community together. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Emily's journey and what it means for you. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. It keeps the stories coming.